In the small town of Kumasi, there lived a young woman named Amara. She was known for her bright smile, soft voice, and gentle way of speaking. Everyone in the neighborhood liked her because she respected elders, worked hard, and always helped others. She lived with her parents, who loved her dearly. Her mother, Mama Esi, often said she was blessed to have a daughter like her. Her father, Baba Kwaku, used to smile proudly whenever people spoke about Amara's good manners and intelligence. Amara had finished her schooling and worked at a small tailoring shop near the marketplace. Every morning, she would walk through the busy streets, greeting people kindly. Children liked her because she always gave them sweets or told them short stories. Many people in Kumasi thought she would soon get married, because she had everything a good man could want in a wife. She was educated, humble, and beautiful. But something strange began to happen. Suitors came one after another to meet her, but none of them stayed. The first man, Kofi, was a quiet man who owned a small farm. He had spoken kindly when they first met. Amara had served him water and smiled shyly, and her parents were pleased. But the next day, Kofi sent a message saying he had changed his mind. He gave no reason. Amara was surprised, but she thought maybe he was not ready for marriage. A few weeks later, another man came. His name was Mensa, a teacher from the next village. He spoke with Amara for a while, asking her about her work and her dreams. She told him she wanted to start her own tailoring shop one day. He seemed impressed. But just like the first man, Mensa disappeared after the visit. He never returned, and no word came from him either. Amara started to feel uneasy. She looked at herself in the mirror at night and asked quietly, "What is wrong with me?" Her mother noticed her sadness. One evening, as they sat outside their small house watching the sunset, Mama Esi said, "Maybe the men fear your education. Some men don't like women who are too smart." Amara shook her head slowly. "No, Mama," she said softly. "It feels like something else is going on. Something I can't see." Days turned into weeks, and more suitors came and went. Kwame, a trader from the town center, came with his mother. He was polite and spoke well. After the visit, his mother praised Amara's cooking and said her son would return soon. But he never did. The same thing happened again and again. Each man came, smiled, spoke politely, and then left forever. The neighbors began to whisper. When Amara walked to the market, she could feel people staring. Some of the young women giggled when she passed, and some older women shook their heads in pity. She tried to ignore them, but the gossip grew louder every day. Some said she was too proud. Others said she had a bad spirit following her. A few even said she must have secretly refused someone powerful, and now she was cursed. At first, Amara cried at night. She could not understand why people were being cruel. She had done nothing wrong. She was kind to everyone and had never spoken badly about anyone. Her father tried to comfort her, telling her that the right man would come at the right time. But deep inside, Amara felt a strange fear growing. She wondered if there was really something wrong that she didn't know about. One morning, as she sat at her sewing machine, her cousin Aduk came to visit. Aduk was cheerful and talkative, but when she saw Amara's tired face, she frowned. "Sister, what's wrong? You look sad." Amara sighed. "Every man who comes to see me goes away. People are saying strange things. I don't know what to do." Aduk listened quietly and then said, "Don't worry. I will find out what's happening." Amara looked at her cousin with hope. "Do you think someone is saying bad things about me?" Aduk didn't answer, but her eyes showed concern. She promised to ask around and left that same afternoon. Days passed slowly. Amara tried to focus on her sewing, but her mind was restless. She thought about every man who had rejected her, trying to remember if she had said something wrong or acted badly. But she could not find any reason. Each time, she had been polite and respectful. At night, when everyone slept, she would sit by her window, listening to the quiet sounds of crickets. The moonlight touched her face as she whispered prayers. She asked God to show her the truth, to help her understand why all this was happening. Her mother grew more worried as time went on. "Maybe we should talk to the pastor," Mama Esi said one evening. "He can pray for you." Amara agreed, though she didn't believe it was a spiritual problem. Deep in her heart, she felt there was a human hand behind her troubles. A week later, Aduk returned with a serious look on her face. Amara noticed it immediately. "What did you find out?" she asked. Aduk looked around to make sure no one was listening. "I heard something, but I'm not sure if it's true," she whispered. Amara's heart began to race. "Tell me," she said. Aduk hesitated, then said quietly, "Someone has been spreading bad stories about you to every man who comes." Amara's eyes widened. "What kind of stories?" Aduk looked down. "That you are rude, proud, and already in love with another man. That you laugh at poor men and only want someone rich." Amara was speechless. She could not believe what she was hearing. "Who would say such lies?" she asked. Aduk sighed. "I don't know yet, but I will find out." Amara felt her chest tighten. So this was why all her suitors had rejected her. Not because of who she was, but because of lies. She sat quietly, thinking of every person she trusted, every friend she had. Her heart ached at the thought that someone close to her might be the reason for her pain. The next morning, as she prepared to go to work, she looked at her reflection again. Her face looked calm, but her eyes showed deep sadness. She told herself that she would not give up until she found the truth. She still greeted everyone kindly in the market. She still smiled at the children. But inside, she carried a heavy question: who wanted to destroy her name, and why? As the sun set over Kumasi that evening, Amara stood outside her house, watching the sky turn golden and then fade into purple. The town grew quiet, but her mind was loud with thoughts. She whispered softly to herself, "Whatever this is, I will find out. I have done nothing wrong, and the truth will come out one day." And with that, she turned back inside, unaware that the answer she sought was much closer than she thought. Days turned into weeks, and still more suitors came and left. First came Kofi, the farmer's son. He had a kind face and spoke with gentle words. When he came to visit Amara, her parents were happy. They cooked a nice meal and welcomed him warmly. Amara spoke politely, answering his questions with a smile. He seemed pleased and promised to return. But after that day, Kofi never came back. He stopped sending messages, and when Amara saw him once at the market, he looked away quickly and pretended not to see her. Then came Mensa, a schoolteacher from the nearby town. He was tall and calm, the kind of man who always spoke slowly and carefully. He met Amara at her father's home and asked her about her work. Amara told him about her tailoring, how she loved sewing dresses for the women in the neighborhood. Mensa had nodded with interest. He even said, "A hard-working woman is a blessing." Amara felt hopeful that maybe this time things would be different. But 2 days later, he sent word that he had changed his mind. No reason, no explanation. He just disappeared, like Kofi. The next was Kwame, a trader who sold yams and cassava at the main market. He was lively and funny. When he met Amara, he made everyone laugh. He praised her cooking, saying no one had ever served him such a nice meal. Her mother smiled and thought maybe Kwame would be the one. But like all the others, he too vanished. Amara was confused. Each man had seemed happy when they met her, but each one left suddenly without any word. She began to feel something heavy in her heart. At night, she would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, asking herself why this was happening. "What did I say wrong?" she whispered one night. "What did I do to make them all leave?" Soon, the whispers began. The neighbors started to talk. When Amara passed by the well, she could hear pieces of gossip floating in the air. "That girl thinks she's better than everyone," one woman said softly. "She talks too big because she went to school." Another voice replied, "I heard she already has a man in secret. That's why no one wants her." Amara tried to ignore them, but their words followed her everywhere. When she went to the market, people stared and whispered behind her back. When she walked to church, some of the women exchanged looks. Even her old friends started to act differently. They smiled less and asked fewer questions. At home, her mother noticed the sadness in her eyes. "Don't listen to them," Mama Esi said one evening while peeling cassava. "People will always talk. They talked when you were doing well, and they will talk now. Keep your head high." Amara nodded, but her heart was heavy. "Mama, what if they're right? What if something about me is wrong?" she asked softly. Her mother stopped peeling for a moment, looked at her daughter, and said gently, "You have a good heart. Anyone who cannot see that is blind." But the rumors kept spreading. Each day, new stories reached Amara's ears. Some said she was too proud. Others claimed she insulted her suitors secretly. There were even strange lies that she had refused to greet elders or that she laughed at poor people. None of it was true, but the stories grew like weeds. Amara tried to smile and act normal, but her heart was breaking. She could no longer walk in peace without feeling people's eyes on her. She stopped going out often, choosing instead to stay at home and sew quietly in her small room. Her sewing machine became her only comfort, the sound of the needle filling the silence that surrounded her. One day, as she sat working on a bright yellow dress, her cousin Aduk came to visit. Aduk was a cheerful young woman, full of life. She had sharp eyes that noticed everything and a calm spirit that made people trust her. When she saw Amara sitting quietly by the window, her face serious, she knew something was wrong. "Sister, what is this sad face?" Aduk asked, sitting beside her. Amara tried to smile but couldn't. "It's nothing," she said, looking down. Aduk wasn't convinced. "Don't lie to me," she said softly. "You used to laugh easily. Now your eyes look tired." Amara sighed and stopped sewing. "It's the same story, Aduk. Men come to see me, and then they leave. They don't even give a reason. People have started talking. They say I am proud, that I have a secret lover. I swear to you, none of that is true." Aduk frowned. "And you don't know why they're leaving?" Amara shook her head slowly. "I've done nothing wrong. I speak politely. I treat everyone kindly. Still they go." Aduk sat quietly for a while, thinking. She could see the pain in Amara's face, and she felt angry that people were treating her cousin unfairly. "Maybe someone is saying bad things about you," she said finally. Amara's eyes widened. "But who would do that?" she asked. Aduk shrugged. "People can be jealous. Sometimes they hide behind smiles." Amara looked away, her voice trembling. "I don't want to believe anyone would hate me that much." Aduk placed a hand on her cousin's shoulder. "Don't worry," she said gently. "I will find out what's happening. Give me a few days." That night, after Aduk left, Amara sat alone on her bed. The oil lamp flickered softly beside her. She thought about what Aduk had said. Could someone really be spreading lies about her? She tried to think of who might be jealous or angry with her, but she couldn't find anyone. She treated everyone with kindness. She never raised her voice or argued. The thought that someone might be secretly trying to destroy her name made her heart ache. The next morning, she went to the market to deliver some clothes to her customers. She walked past groups of women who suddenly went quiet as she approached. She could feel their eyes following her, and she knew they were talking about her again. She kept her head high, pretending not to notice, but when she reached home, she broke down in tears. Her mother found her crying and pulled her close. "My daughter," she said softly, "you cannot control what people say, but you can control how you live. Keep living with kindness. Truth does not hide forever." Amara nodded and wiped her tears. "Mama, I just want peace. I want to know why this is happening." The next few days were quiet, but Amara's heart was restless. She waited for Aduk's return, hoping for answers. Each evening, she sat outside, watching the sky darken and listening to the wind whisper through the trees. The air carried voices from the nearby houses, laughter, gossip, and sometimes her own name. It made her chest tighten. Finally, one late afternoon, Aduk returned. Her eyes looked serious, but she smiled to comfort Amara. "I've been asking questions," she said slowly. "People talk a lot when you listen quietly." Amara leaned forward, anxious to hear. "And what did you find?" Aduk paused for a moment. "Something strange," she said. "I'm not sure yet, but it seems someone has been speaking badly about you. Every time a man comes to meet you, that person goes to him first and tells him lies." Amara's mouth opened slightly. She couldn't speak. Her heart pounded fast. "Who would do such a thing?" she whispered. Aduk shook her head. "I don't know yet, but I will find out." Amara looked out the window. The wind blew softly through the trees, carrying whispers through the air. For the first time, she realized those whispers were not only made by the wind, they came from people who wanted to see her fall. But she also knew the truth would not stay hidden forever. Aduk began her search quietly. She did not want anyone to know what she was doing. Every morning, she went to the market, pretending to buy fruits and vegetables, but her real purpose was to listen. She stopped by the water well, greeted the women there, and joined their small talks. People always spoke freely when they thought no one was paying attention. Aduk listened carefully, her sharp mind catching every word that passed. At first, no one said anything directly about Amara. The women only gossiped about prices, children, and the village festival that was coming soon. But one day, as she sat near a group of young girls washing clothes, she heard Amara's name. "That Amara," one of them said in a low voice. "She acts like a queen. No wonder the men run away." Another replied, "Yes, I heard she already has a man from another town. That's why she pretends not to care." Aduk's heart began to beat faster. She moved closer slowly and asked with a small smile, "Really? Who told you that?" The girls looked at her suspiciously. "Everybody knows," one of them said, shrugging. "People say one of her own friends told them." Aduk smiled politely and said nothing more, but inside she was burning with curiosity. Later that afternoon, she went to visit her aunt, who sold palm oil near the bus stop. Her aunt was friendly and always seemed to know every story in town. Aduk helped her measure the oil into bottles, and as they worked, she casually asked, "Auntie, do you know why people say bad things about Amara? I hear so many lies these days." Her aunt looked around before lowering her voice. "You know how people are," she said. "They don't like others to shine too bright. But I did hear one thing. Someone close to her has been talking. Someone she calls her friend." Aduk froze. Her aunt continued, "Every time a suitor comes, this person goes to him and says Amara is proud, that she looks down on poor people, and that she has another man. The men believe it, and they leave." Aduk's mind started racing. "Who would do such a thing?" she asked quietly. Her aunt shook her head. "I don't know, my child. But the truth always comes out in the end." That night, Aduk could not sleep. She kept thinking about Amara, who was sitting at home alone, wondering what she had done wrong. She thought about the laughter they used to share as children, and how kind Amara had always been to everyone. The idea that someone could hate her enough to ruin her name made Aduk angry. The next morning, she went to see Amara. Her cousin was sewing quietly by the window. When Aduk entered, Amara smiled faintly. "Did you find anything?" she asked softly. Aduk shook her head. "Not yet," she said, though she had already heard plenty. "But I am getting closer." She didn't want to tell Amara half the story without proof. She needed to be sure before speaking. Over the next few days, Aduk watched carefully. She noticed something strange. Every time a man came to visit Amara, her friend Zuri would somehow show up later that same day, acting cheerful and curious. Zuri had always been close to Amara. They grew up together, shared food, and told each other secrets. Everyone in town knew they were like sisters. One evening, Aduk followed Zuri quietly after she left Amara's house. She saw Zuri walking quickly through the streets until she reached the home of one of the young men who had recently shown interest in Amara. Aduk hid behind a tree and waited. She saw Zuri knock on the door. The man came out, and the two spoke for a long time. Zuri's voice was too low for Aduk to hear everything, but she caught a few words. "Amara, proud, not serious." Aduk's heart sank. She didn't need to hear more. The truth was clear. Zuri was the one spreading the lies. The next morning, Aduk went to see her aunt again. "Auntie," she said, "I know who's doing it." Her aunt looked up in surprise. "Who?" Aduk hesitated, her voice trembling a little. "It's Zuri, Amara's best friend." Her aunt's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Aduk nodded slowly. "I saw her myself." Her aunt sighed deeply. "Ah, jealousy is a dangerous thing. Sometimes the people who smile at you are the same ones who want to see you fall." Aduk felt a heavy sadness in her heart. She could not understand why Zuri would betray someone who trusted her so deeply. That night, she went back home and prayed for wisdom. She knew that telling Amara the truth would hurt her, but she also knew that keeping it secret would be worse. The next day, She went to Amara's house early in the morning. Amara was outside sweeping the yard. She looked up and smiled when she saw her cousin. "Aduk, you came early. Do you have news?" Aduk looked at her, unsure how to begin. "Yes," she said softly, "but it's not easy to say." Amara stopped sweeping and frowned. "What is it? Tell me." Aduk took a deep breath. "I found out who has been telling lies about you. It's someone you trust, someone close." Amara's face changed. She looked worried. "Who?" Aduk hesitated for a moment and then said quietly, "It's Zuri." The broom fell from Amara's hand. For a few seconds, she didn't speak. "No," she whispered. "Zuri. That cannot be true. We've been friends since childhood." Aduk nodded sadly. "I know. I didn't believe it either. But I followed her yesterday. She went to the home of one of your suitors and told him things about you. I heard her say you were proud and not serious about marriage." Amara stood still, her heart heavy with disbelief. "Why would she do that? What have I done to her?" Aduk walked closer and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes people envy what they cannot destroy. You have beauty, kindness, and respect. Some hearts cannot bear to see others shine." Tears filled Amara's eyes. "But I loved her like a sister," she said softly. "I shared everything with her. I trusted her with my secrets." Aduk sighed. "I'm sorry, Amara. I know it hurts, but you needed to know the truth." For a long time, Amara said nothing. She just stared at the ground, her mind full of memories, the laughter, the long walks, the dreams they shared. It all now felt like a lie. That evening, Amara sat quietly by her window, watching the sunset. The orange sky reflected her mixed emotions, sadness, anger, and confusion. Her heart ached, but deep down she also felt a strange sense of peace. At least now she knew. The pain of not knowing had been heavier than the truth itself. She remembered her mother's words, "The truth never hides forever." And she realized her mother was right. Lies could travel fast, but truth always found a way to rise again. Aduk came to sit beside her. "What will you do now?" she asked. Amara looked ahead and spoke calmly. "Nothing for now. I will not fight her with anger. I will wait. The same people who believed her lies will one day see the truth for themselves." Aduk nodded quietly. She admired Amara's strength. Even in pain, she still carried grace. As the night fell over Kumasi, the town grew quiet again. But inside one small house, two cousins sat together in silence, bound by truth and the sadness it brought. In that silence, Amara made a promise in her heart. She would not let lies destroy her spirit. She would rise again, stronger, and the truth would clear her name. Amara sat alone under the big mango tree in front of her house, her heart heavy with confusion. The truth Aduk had told her still echoed in her mind. Zuri, her best friend, the girl she had shared secrets and dreams with, was the one who had ruined her name. It felt impossible. Amara tried to convince herself that it couldn't be true. "No," she whispered to herself, "Zuri would never hurt me. She's my sister." But deep down, she felt something break inside her. For days, she avoided going to the market or visiting anyone. She stayed home, quiet and lost in thought. Her mother noticed the sadness in her eyes and tried to comfort her. "My child," Mama Esi said gently, "truth is like bitter medicine. It hurts when you take it, but it heals you later." Amara nodded slowly but said nothing. She wanted to believe her mother, but the pain in her chest was still too fresh. Aduk came to visit again. She found Amara sitting on the veranda, staring at the road. "Have you spoken to her yet?" Aduk asked softly. Amara shook her head. "No. I don't know what to say. How can I look at her and pretend everything is fine? How can I forgive someone who destroyed my name?" Aduk sighed. "I understand. But you need to hear it from her own mouth. Sometimes, the truth needs to be spoken aloud before your heart can rest." Amara thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You're right. I need to hear it from her." That evening, when the sun was setting and the sky turned golden, Amara walked toward Zuri's house. The road felt longer than usual. Her feet were heavy, and her heart pounded with every step. She remembered the laughter they used to share, the nights they stayed awake talking about their dreams. Now everything felt distant, broken. When she reached the small clay house where Zuri lived, she stood at the door for a long time. She almost turned back. But then she heard Zuri's voice inside, humming softly. Amara took a deep breath and knocked. Zuri opened the door, and when she saw Amara, her eyes widened. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Zuri stepped aside and said quietly, "Come in." Amara entered the small room. It smelled of palm oil and soap. The walls were bare, and a soft light from a small lamp flickered in the corner. Zuri looked nervous. She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "Amara," she began, "I didn't think you would come." "I had to," Amara said softly. "I needed to hear it from you." Zuri lowered her eyes. "Hear what?" "The truth," Amara said. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly. "Did you tell lies about me? Did you speak to the men who came to see me?" There was silence for a long moment. The only sound was the chirping of crickets outside. Zuri's eyes filled with tears. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Yes." Amara felt her breath catch. She had expected it, but hearing it still hurt deeply. "Why?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Why would you do that to me, Zuri? I trusted you more than anyone." Zuri covered her face with her hands and began to cry. "I was jealous," she sobbed. "Everyone loved you, Amara. Every man who came to town only talked about you. People praised you for your beauty, your kindness, your education. They never saw me. I was just the friend standing beside you." Amara watched her, tears filling her own eyes. Zuri continued, "One day, I told one man that you were already in love with someone else. I didn't mean for it to spread, but it did. People started talking, and I didn't stop them. I liked the attention. I liked that for once, someone looked at me instead of you. But then it became too big, and I didn't know how to fix it." Amara felt her heart ache with sorrow. "You destroyed my name, Zuri," she said quietly. "You made people think I was proud and unkind. You made my mother cry. You made me question myself." Zuri nodded, still crying. "I know. And I hate myself for it. I didn't realize how much damage I was causing. I just wanted to feel important." For a long time, the two women sat in silence. The night outside grew darker, and the wind blew softly through the open window. Finally, Amara spoke again. Her voice was calm, though her eyes were filled with tears. "I forgive you, Zuri." Zuri looked up in surprise. "You do?" she whispered. "Yes," Amara said slowly. "Because if I don't forgive you, the pain will stay in my heart forever. But I can't be your friend the same way again. I must walk my own path now." Zuri began to cry harder. "Please, Amara, don't leave me. I'll make it right. I'll tell everyone the truth." Amara shook her head gently. "The truth doesn't need to be shouted. It will come out on its own. Time will show people who was lying and who was not." She stood up, her heart trembling but steady. "I hope one day you find peace, Zuri. I hope you learn that envy only destroys what is good in us." Zuri reached out to hold her hand, but Amara stepped back. "Goodbye, Zuri," she said softly. As she walked home, the moonlight followed her, quiet and cold. Her tears rolled down her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. Each tear felt like a small piece of pain leaving her heart. She felt lighter, though her soul still hurt. When she reached home, Mama Esi was waiting by the door. "You went to see her," her mother said gently. Amara nodded. "Yes, Mama. And I forgave her." Mama Esi smiled faintly. "Then you are wiser than many. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget. It means you are free." Amara leaned against her mother's shoulder, silent. The night felt calm again, and the sound of frogs filled the air. She thought about her friendship with Zuri, how pure it once was, and how it ended. But deep inside, she also felt proud of herself. She had chosen peace over anger. The next morning, people in the town still whispered, but Amara no longer cared. She walked through the market with her head high. Some people looked away, ashamed of the lies they had repeated. Others looked at her with respect. Aduk saw her from afar and smiled proudly. Later, when Amara met Aduk again, she said softly, "You were right. The truth hurts, but it also heals." Aduk nodded. "Yes. Now your heart will find rest." Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the gossip began to fade. A few men even came to apologize, saying they had been foolish to believe rumors. Amara accepted their apologies but did not open her heart again easily. She had learned her lesson. Trust is like glass. Once broken, it can never look the same again. Sometimes, at night, Amara still thought of Zuri. She wondered if her old friend was doing well, if she ever found peace in her heart. Despite everything, Amara still wished her well. She no longer hated her. Hatred, she realized, was too heavy to carry. And though her heart still carried the scar of betrayal, Amara smiled again. She began to teach the children in her town how to read and write, filling her days with purpose. People started to respect her even more, not for her beauty or charm, but for her strength and kindness. Her story became a quiet lesson in Kumasi, a story about forgiveness, jealousy, and the power of truth. Mothers told their daughters, "Be like Amara, kind enough to forgive, but wise enough to walk away." And whenever the evening wind passed through the mango trees, it seemed to whisper her words again, gentle and calm. "I forgive you, Zuri, but I must walk my own path now." Amara woke up one morning to the sound of birds singing outside her window. The air was fresh, and sunlight poured gently into her small room. It had been many weeks since she last cried about Zuri or the suitors who had rejected her. The pain was still there somewhere deep inside, but it no longer controlled her. She had chosen peace over bitterness, and that decision began to change her life. Each day, Amara reminded herself that what had happened was not the end of her story. She had lost friends, she had been hurt by lies, but she was still standing. Her mother, Mama Esi, often told her, "A clean heart will always rise above dirt." Amara held onto those words. She wanted to prove that even after all the gossip, she could build something good out of her pain. She began teaching small children under the big mango tree outside her home. The children came with slates and chalk, their faces bright with curiosity. Some of them had never held a pencil before, but they were eager to learn. Amara taught them letters, numbers, songs, and stories. Her gentle voice and patient heart made the children love her. Soon, more parents began sending their children to learn from her. At first, some neighbors whispered behind her back. "That's the girl all the men rejected," they said. But after some time, those same neighbors began to change their words. They saw how happy the children were and how much they learned. They saw Amara working hard every day without complaining. Slowly, the whispers turned into admiration. "That girl is strong," they began to say. "She turned her pain into purpose." A few months later, a man from the town council visited her small class. He watched as she helped a little boy write his name for the first time. The boy smiled proudly, and Amara clapped her hands with joy. The man was impressed. "You are doing a wonderful job," he told her. "Would you like some help to make this into a real school?" Amara's heart leapt. She thanked him warmly, and with the council's small support, she was able to buy wooden benches and a chalkboard. They built a tiny building beside the mango tree, nothing fancy, but strong and full of life. She called it the Light School. Because education, she said, is the light that chases away darkness. As the months passed, Amara's school grew. Parents brought food and books to help. Older children began to read stories aloud to the younger ones. Laughter filled the air every morning. For the first time in a long while, Amara felt truly at peace. One afternoon, while she was writing on the chalkboard, she heard a calm voice behind her say, "You teach beautifully." She turned around and saw a tall man with kind eyes standing by the door. He wore a simple white shirt and carried a bag full of books. "Good afternoon," Amara said politely. "Good afternoon," the man replied with a warm smile. "My name is Tund. I'm a teacher from the next village. I heard about your school and came to see it." Amara smiled shyly. "You are welcome, Teacher Tund. We don't have much here, but we do our best." Tund looked around the small classroom with admiration. "You've done something amazing," he said. "Not everyone has the courage to start something with so little." His words touched Amara's heart. Many people had judged her before, but this man spoke with respect and kindness. Over the next few weeks, Tund began visiting often. Sometimes he brought books, sometimes he helped the children read. The children liked him immediately. He told funny stories and encouraged them to dream big. Amara found herself enjoying his company. They often talked after class, sharing their thoughts about life, hope, and the struggles of their people. One day, Tund told her, "I heard the rumors about you before I came. People said many bad things. But when I met you, I saw the truth myself." Amara looked at him quietly. "You didn't believe what they said?" she asked softly. Tund shook his head. "No. I don't judge people by what I hear. I look with my own eyes. And what I see is a woman who turned her pain into strength." Amara smiled. For the first time, she felt truly understood. She thanked him and said, "Sometimes rejection is just God's way of protecting you from the wrong people." From that day, their friendship grew deeper. They worked together in the school, planning lessons, planting flowers around the yard, and laughing with the children. The people in Kumasi began to notice how well they worked together. Some whispered again, but this time with joy. "They look good together," they said. Two teachers, both humble and kind. As time went on, Tund asked Mama Esi for permission to visit Amara properly. Mama Esi smiled and said, "My daughter has suffered enough. If your heart is true, you will not hurt her." Tund promised that he would always stand by Amara's side. Their wedding was small but full of love. The townspeople came, carrying baskets of fruit and singing songs. Even a Duk, who had stood by Amara through the hardest days, cried tears of joy. The market women danced and clapped, saying, "God has finally rewarded her for her patience." Zuri did not come to the wedding, but Amara heard later that she had moved away. Amara did not hate her anymore. In her heart, she had already forgiven her. She even prayed for her that night, whispering softly, "May she also find peace." After the wedding, Amara and Tund continued teaching together. Their school grew larger. With Tund's help, they built another classroom and added more books. The children now wore small uniforms made from blue cloth, and every morning they sang songs before class began. One day, a man who had once rejected Amara passed through the town. He stopped outside the school, watching her from afar. He saw how the children ran to her with smiles, how Tund stood beside her proudly, and how peaceful she looked. The man lowered his head and said quietly, "I believed the lies. I lost a good woman." But Amara never saw him. Her eyes were on the children, her heart was full, and she had no room left for regrets. Life in Kumasi slowly changed because of her. More girls began to go to school. Mothers who once kept their daughters at home now encouraged them to study. "Be like Teacher Amara," they said. "Be strong, be kind, and never let people's words stop you." Years passed, and Amara and Tund became known not just as teachers but as guides. Their love grew stronger, built on honesty and respect. In the evenings, they would sit outside their small house, watching the sunset while the children played nearby. One evening, Tund asked her, "Do you ever think about what happened before we met?" Amara smiled softly. "Sometimes," she said. "But I don't feel pain anymore. Every rejection led me here. If those men had not turned away, I might not have met you. I might not have built this school. God's plan was better than mine." Tund took her hand and said, "Then you truly understand the lesson." Amara nodded. "Yes. The lesson and the light. I learned that everything lost can lead you to something greater if you keep your heart clean." The wind blew gently, carrying the sound of laughter from the schoolyard. Amara looked at the children running and playing and whispered. And the wind, as if in agreement, would carry her words far and wide, a gentle reminder that even pain can lead to peace, and even darkness can lead to light.